Hello, my name is Simon Miller, and welcome to The Week in Gaming, the only gaming podcast you need. We weren't here last week because I was off jaunting around WrestleMania 35, so please do go check out all my content for that if you are interested in pro wrestling, and maybe if you're not, maybe my enthusiasm can turn you onto it. And of course, a shout out to everybody that makes this possible at patreon.com/Simon Miller 316. I'm always joined by a co-host, which is my man Sam Bishop, who's on the other end of the line. Sam, how are we today?
Yeah, not doing too bad. How about you?
I'm all right. Yeah, you know, we're back. We're doing this thing. It hasn't actually been that quiet in games because, well, let's just talk about... The thing I actually wanted to talk about first before we talk about how Sony revealed its first details for the PlayStation 5 is the reaction to how Sony released its details for the PlayStation 5. I really liked how they did it. They just did an interview with Wired, and during the conversation, the subject of the PlayStation 5 came up, and they dropped a load of details, and I was like... I think that's a brilliant way to do something in 2019. I mean, I understand the hyperbole behind a big announcement, and, you know, I mean, we'll talk about Capcom later, but obviously Capcom, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, no, but yesterday, was like, 24 hours time, we got a big announcement. Everyone's like, what does that mean? But as far as I'm concerned, when you're talking about a next-generation console, how much hype do you really have to give it? All you got to do is write PlayStation 5 in the article, and I think everyone goes crazy. I just thought it was nice. I thought it was a really nice, effortless, easy way to let people know that it's coming, and you're probably already excited about it, regardless of what they say.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, usually for most people, they'd want everyone to know so they can prepare whatever ahead of time and they can know when it's coming so they can put it out as many feelers as possible. But I guess when you're Sony and, you know, probably other companies like Rockstar, you drop news and people drop what they're doing to cover your news. So you don't really need to care about letting people know because they'll cover it whatever time of day it is.
Yeah, exactly. I really did think it was great. It was just, it allowed the conversation to grow organically. I hate that word, but it did, and I much rather that than people going crazy and chucking it in my face. In terms of, if you haven't seen the details, it's not like massive. To me, the biggest piece of news is it's going to have a solid state drive. And the reason, or an SSD as we'll call it from now on, because I'm not saying that every time. And the reason that's cool, mostly, is when it comes to loading times. And I think they did a demonstration when, I think Mark Kearney was showing it to the Wired guy. And I think he did a demonstration on Spider-Man 4, where he showed that it took basically like 15 seconds to load up something to do in Spider-Man, whether that's fast travel, whatever. And when he did it on the PlayStation 5, which he says is a dev kit, and it's a low-speed version for now, it took less than 1 second. And it took 0.8 seconds to be exact, to quote the article. And they also mentioned how fast the camera can be now while not sort of, jaggying up the environment. And that's the coolest thing to me, because obviously you can load stuff, I'm sure you've worked out if you don't know, faster from an SSD. And it's one of those things, because I've been using a solid state drive for so long in my non-gaming world, as most people have, like especially if you're into technology and media, you just need one in order to be as productive as possible. It kind of hit me. You kind of forget how old the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 are. They still feel new to me, because there is no way you could release anything like this now and not have a solid state drive. People would just wouldn't accept it. And it kind of blew my brain a little bit. I was like, man, how is that even a thing? Yeah,
people forget, like, I think we're getting onto the same age that the Xbox 360 and PS3 were when they handed the torch over to the PS4 and Xbox One, because it was released in 2013. So it's got to be like 2013. Yeah, it's 2013. Yeah, it's old now. They're old. They're not. They're just because they're the newest things doesn't mean they're modern technology. Like the technological world has changed a lot.
No, it has, and I it's funny because I don't know whether this is just hindsight talking. Actually, at the time, they went as long, but it always felt as if both Microsoft and Sony weren't jumping the gun when it came to releasing a new console. But that was kind of the feel, like, oh no, we have to make sure these consoles, live longer, and we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. Especially, obviously, with the original Xbox. The Xbox 360 did come out very soon after that. But I honestly think, let's say we do get new consoles in 2020, which is also in the article, not stated, no official release date, but strongly hinted at. That's 7 years. I think, so did you say 13 or 15? I can't remember what you just said.
It was 13, yeah.
Yeah, it was 13. Yeah, that's 7 years. I think 7 years, especially when you look at something, I understand a TV is different, but TVs are rapidly, the amount they expect you to change a TV, I don't know everybody does, but they don't give you any lead time whatsoever without going, it's a brand new version of this television. I think 7 years if it comes out in November 2020, is more than fine. I think everybody would have got their fill out of it. You know, if you do enjoy the technological ratio of the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, or whatever the hell it was called, I've got no problem with them starting to drop these things now. I imagine now that Sony's done it, and this ties into another story, but we won't move off the PlayStation 5 just yet. But Microsoft have announced their E3 date. They are still kind of a conference there, as opposed to everybody else. And I would guess that at that event, they will now focus very much on the Xbox, whatever they're going to call it. It's June 9th at 9 p.m. BST, if you're interested. And in terms of other things they talked about the CPU and GPU. There is no point me reading out everything because it is just a bunch of, unless you're really into that stuff, you're not going to understand. But it uses an AMD chip. It's a third generation of AMD's Ryzen line, and it's just really fast. That's all you need to know. It's really, really fast. And I understand that they have to go all out when it comes to how it looks and how it sounds. And actually, sound was actually a big thing that came up in the article. It sounds like, as much as visuals have always been this huge step forward, sound now seems like it's sort of, you know, on par with that. Like, you can't release a new console without ensuring the sound sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's another thing that sort of, I think a lot of people didn't care about. Maybe it's just because I didn't care about it.
I agree, yeah.
I feel like a lot of people didn't care for a while, and now it's just like, because I guess you get to a point where Atmos is just thrown around a load of press releases and stuff, and yeah, people care more about the experience. Well, it's an experience thing now, so sound is a big part of that too.
Yeah, and I think as well, what really can you do with graphics, like, or visuals, whichever you want to call it?
Put more Ks. Who put an 8K, put a whatever.
but that's just it. Like, they're not going to look. I'm sure everything will look better than, say, Red Dead Redemption, which for my money is one of the best looking games I've seen. But it's not going to be night and day, is it? We're not going to get a PlayStation 5 and go, oh my gosh. And I don't even think we're aiming for reality anymore. I think it's more about art style and aesthetics. And again, like you said, sound and the experience that these games give you.
Yeah.
And so that certainly seems to be the way we're focused. The big thing to me is that Kearney said that VR is still going to be very important. The PSVR headset is going to work with the PlayStation 5, which is good, because I get worried that people are done with VR, and I don't even think we've hit the surface with it yet. And tying into that, it's also going to be backwards compatible with PlayStation 4 games. So really, in terms of headline news about what you could have possibly wanted from a new console, I kind of think it ticked every box. I think it's really exciting. There's no these games are coming out, or it's going to cost this much. But just reading it, I think you come away being a bit like, oh man, I'm quite intrigued to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, it's a nice sort of like, okay, we won't tell you everything, we won't reveal it, but here's, you know, it's got those things you want, and then it's like, oh, cool,
yeah,
great,
yeah.
That's what we want. It's sort of like a worry settler of a piece rather than a reveal.
Exactly, and I think that's a really cool way to go about it.
Yeah,
I maybe I'm being wrong here. This is just kind of the feel, which is a terrible way to put it, but it's the feel that I get from sort of modern day games. I don't think everybody is into that as much as maybe they once were. Like the whole bombastic, oh my gosh, I don't think that's a thing. I think you can still do it and people get excited, but I think equally, because I found this out through Twitter, and I know that Kotaku and obviously Video Gamer, VG247, Eurogamer, they all picked it up as they were going to do. Of course, they'd be mad not to. But I liked this. It was understated. It got me interesting. You know, it encouraged debate as we're having now. And it got me thinking, well, what do I actually want from the PlayStation 5? And really, without wanting to be a really boring old sod, I just want games. Just come up with, like, this year especially, I look at the release calendar, and I understand it's going to be different depending on your personal tastes. But I look at the release calendar, I'm like, there's nothing really that gets me overly excited. And it could be because now everybody's focusing on, again, what's coming next. But that's my main thing. And if you can make them look and sound great, that's awesome. Of course it is. But more innovative, original, quirky, special, short, you know, much like, that's the kind of thing that I'm hoping comes with this announcement. And I hope that ties into the technology too. That's kind of the big thing I want from my next generation, which almost sounds like I'm taking a step back. More single player as well. That would be all right with me.
Yeah, more single player would be good, but that's a different can of worms.
Well, I mean, we're talking about single. This is a segue by accident, but look, we can talk about it. There was a bunch of Star Wars stuff that came out this week.
Yep.
Did you watch the Star Wars Episode 9 trailer, Sam? Let's start there.
No, I haven't seen Episode 8. So.
There you go. You're not a Star Wars guy?
But it's one of those ones where it's like, I don't dislike it. I was a fan when I was a kid, but I'm not like a super fan that keeps up with it. If someone was like, oh yeah, do you want to come out and watch the new Star Wars? I'd be like, oh yeah, cool, whatever. Or if it's a Sky Movies, I'll put it on. But I'm not that bothered into it.
I think that's fair. I know some people go crazy when you say that, but you know, that's that.
To be clear, I'm also not one of these people who's like, you know what? I've never watched the Star Wars, because they're worse than the people who really go on at you about Star Wars because they think it's some sort of personality not liking Star Wars. Like, just whatever. Same with Game of Thrones. Just like it, don't go on about it. Really.
Yeah, no, I'm the same, man. Like,
mini rant over. So.
Well, no, it's funny you say that, because I did. I've got well into doing reaction videos for trailers because I realise I watch them, so I may as well watch them and put them on the internet. Like, I never used to understand it, but I've completely bought into that. So I thought I'd do the Star Wars one. Again, if you do want to watch it, it's at youtube.com/Simon. The Miller Report rules, I should say. And I forgot, again, because I'm a Star Wars fan, but I'm not a Star Wars fan, if you know, I'm not in that.
You're not the Star Wars.
Exactly. I forgot that everybody hated Episode 8 for in my opinion, crazy reasons about Luke Skywalker and the way he acts. So when I don't delve into much. I kind of just talk about it from my, lovey-dovey perspective, or even shallow perspective, if I'm happy to be called it that. And everyone goes crazy, going, "Oh, I forgot that the passion that it draws out of people is nuts." But I did watch it. To me, if you had said, Simon, can you make a Star Wars trailer? That's what I would have made. Not disparagingly, they just know how to get their audience excited. So, I'm all good with that. But also at the same time, I don't know whether this was tied in intentionally, EA announced finally some proper details for Star Wars The Jedi Fallen Order. And also the Vader VR game, Vader Immortal. Thank you, Brain, you remembered. Now, we'll start there. I think Vader Immortal looks awesome. Now, I understand it coming to Oculus Rift. I really hope somehow it comes to the PlayStation VR thingy, because I have better access to that. But these are the type of experiences that I want on my VR machine. Iconic characters that I love in a world that I find very enjoyable. And, they've even said it's going to take you about an hour. It's more of an experience. And
like Arkham VR.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. That's my favourite VR thing ever. And it's not the best thing ever, but I thought it made great use of the technology it had at its disposal. But more so, it made me feel like Batman. Now, I think in Vader Immortal, you're actually fighting Vader, or you're a team with Vader. I couldn't really work it out in the trailer. It didn't really make it clear. At the end, it seems like you're having a lightsaber fight with him. But it got me excited. It got me pumped. And I think more stuff like that would be awesome. I think we should do it for all of the big characters. Even if we just copy the Batman model, I think there's something in that. So, yeah, I think that's cool. I'm looking forward to that. And I probably...
Star Wars is one of the things that people have been trying to sort of capture in an experience for ages. There's a reason why it's such a good fantasy, because kids with sticks pretend they're lightsabers all the time. And they've tried to I remember the anticipation with the Kinect Star Wars game. Everyone thought that would be the best way to get into that experience. But with VR, you could actually get into that. And with good mapping on, I assume it's got not move controllers, those hand controllers, I assume that'll be the thing. That could be a really convincing Star Wars experience, to, even if it's just for an hour, just be that is the best hour I've had in VR,
Yeah. And I also, it's one of those weird things people go, oh, it's only an hour long, but it can be an hour long. It's VR, it's brand new, technically, not really, but, we don't have to follow, it must be 8 to 10 to 12 to 14, whatever hours long, just because that's what we're used to on a PlayStation 4. No, serve the device. And I think the shorter experiences absolutely does. So I was pretty excited about that. As for Jedi Fallen Order, did you watch the trailer for that? You may not have done, but I'll start there.
I watched bits and pieces of it, which is weird because it's just a trailer, but I saw it sort of floating around on Twitter. I just didn't...
But that's the thing, I think you've hit the nail on the head by accident. It's not a great trailer, dude. I'm really excited for that game, but I thought it was so... It's the first time in a long time I've watched a trailer and go, we've got to stop copying movies when it comes to video games, because I've learnt nothing from that other than it's a single player game and I'm a Jedi. It
was a hype trailer. It was just so you had this reveal that wasn't really a reveal. Yeah, it was very strange. I didn't really get it. I didn't get the point.
Yeah, no, I wanted more. I can't really explain that, but it's just one of those. I have these experiences. I kind of shift in my approach to things, and this was one of the times I was like, "We got to stop doing it." Just give me a gameplay trailer, and I'm sure I think some of it was. The kind of headlines for that are again a single player, which we talked about earlier. Oddly, doesn't use Frostbite. It uses Unreal Engine 4. So I think
everyone's like, "Woo!" Well, that's what I heard.
True, but do you think that was a choice, or do you think it's been in development for longer than we realise, and therefore trying to port it across was like, "There's no way we can do it. It's going to ruin everything."
I think I did read that it's been in development before Respawn were acquired. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's the case. In which case, I assume it was in the pipelines and ready to be made in Unreal Engine. So that's what I would assume.
Yeah, it's always strange. We do have, there it is, looking for the release date, November 15th, 2019, on PC and consoles. And I mean, it's set after Revenge of the Sith, so again, set in between episodes 3 and 4, so the Empire's going to be dominant, and I'm sure you're going to be, you'll be fine to them. I thought it was a bit odd they announced it's going to have cosmetic DLC. I don't think EA should ever, I think they just need to be careful with stuff like that. And it's going to have a standard edition and a deluxe edition. I don't blame them for that. That's just video games in 2019. At least there's only two versions as opposed to like 7 that Ubisoft does. And it's going to be, they call it an action-adventure game, but from what I could read from the press release and watching the trailer, it's going to be more focused on melee combat, which you'd have to imagine that lightsabers are going to be a massive, part of the experience, which I think that's where I think this game lives or dies. For too long, like Battlefront, right? Battlefront is an amazing video game, aside from the issues that we know, but I mean, in terms of its core, but because it does... The lightsaber battles are okay, but there's also gunplay and other forms of combat. I want a Star Wars game finally that comes out and says, no, man, we're focusing, you're a Jedi, and you'll have guns and stuff, much as they do in the movies, but really, when push comes to shove, force push comes to shove, you actually get to enjoy. That's what they should be focusing on. They should come up with a game where people can say, this is the best lightsaber thing I've ever done in a video game. And then everyone will love it, no matter what else happens.
Yeah, nobody looks at Star Wars and be like, yeah, I'd love a blaster. You know what I mean? Like, everyone
exactly,
goes for that's the selling point.
No, it's so true. It's so true. And quite coolly as well, it's not an open world, but it will feature exploration and puzzle solving. To me, that sounds like a very old school video game, and I say that with a massive compliment. That's what, that's what I want. I want a game, again, I want that quintessential 8 out of 10 that we've talked about on this podcast so many times before. I just want a really old school video game that uses modern technology to give me the experience I expect. And at the end of, say, 12 hours, I've had a really good story, I've had a really good time, and then I can get rid of it and never think about it again.
Yeah, it did make me laugh. Everyone was like celebrating the fact that EA said there'd be no microtransactions. Like, it's not like a good thing, you know what I mean? It's just, okay, good, you don't have microtransactions. I'm not going to applaud you for not having microtransactions.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, that's a plus, but I'm not going to clap you for not exploiting players. Like,
no, but I think that kind of sums up where EA are at the moment, doesn't it? Like, you have to...
Well, they needed to make clear after Battlefront 2 that it's not going to happen again.
Yeah. No, exactly. And obviously there's no multiplayer as well, just in talking about things that there's not. This is a purely single-player game, and respect to EA, I'm glad that they're doing that. It's, like I said, that's what I want going forward. Nothing against multiplayer games, but I want to make sure we go the other way. And that's pretty much it. That's Star Wars Jedi Fallen. Again, I need to see a proper trailer. That's what I need to see. I need to see something with a bit more meat on the bones. Because really, all I want is KOTOR, but obviously without the real-time combat. They're not going to do that, especially not in the modern day. And if they do, I'll be cool with it. I'll be happy.
Yeah.
It kind of comes down to that. So we'll see. But yeah, all the information is out there now. Let us know what you thought of the trailer. I'm not ragging on the trailer. In terms of what a trailer's meant to do, I can imagine Star Wars fans watching it and getting really pumped. I just don't want to... I just want video game trailers to be video game trailers. And I want film trailers to be film trailers. And sometimes I feel like the line gets crossed too much. And look, Gears of War's to blame. Mad World, right? Mad World did all of this, so my favourite game ever did it. Let's talk about this bizarre Capcom console. I'm gonna defer to you a little bit, Sam. I've got it open now. All I know is it's £200, and it looks a bit like a birthday cake. So if you could please explain what the hell is going on, I'd appreciate it.
So I was pretty much like, I just looked at the press release and I was like, okay, cool. Capcom have announced a mini console. It was rumoured after the tease yesterday. Okay, cool. And then I looked at it. I was like, because they described it and then I hadn't seen pictures and it was like, oh, it's got the logo on it. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, it's got the logo on it. But the whole thing is a joypad in the shape of the Capcom logo. Yeah. So it is the logo. Like, I didn't realise that's exactly what it was.
And you plug that straight in as well.
Ever since I saw it, because I looked at it and I was like, that is disgusting. But it has grown on me a little bit. And I think it's got 2 joysticks, so you could like put it on the table or the floor and play alongside a friend, like an arcade cabinet or whatever. Yeah, I mean that. And it's got Street Fighter 2, but not the Street Fighter 2. It's Street Fighter 2
Hyper Fighting.
Yeah, whatever that is.
I think it's the better one, actually. I can't remember. I mean, the games I've got written here, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know much about some of these games, so I don't know if they're considered good or not. but it's 1944 The Loop Master, Alien vs. Predator, Armored Warriors, Capcom Sports Club, Captain Commando, Cyberbots, Darkstalkers, Eco Fighters, Final Fight, Ghouls and Ghosts, fuck that game, Giga Wing, Mega Man, The Power Battle, Pro Gear, Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting Strider, and Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. There may be more. They're the ones that I've got. My question for you is, Sam, it's £200. Worth it? Not worth it?
That is exactly what I was going to say, because when someone told me it was £200, I was like, no, you can't be serious, because it's 16 games so far. I don't know if it's confirmed to be just 16 games, but even with like onboard Wi-Fi, the extra design that's it looks a bit more not substantial, but it looks a bit more to it than the SNES and NES Mini. That's £200 for 16 emulated old games. I was shocked. There's probably some people out there. I could see if this was 16 of the best, like, real creme de la creme of the Capcom catalogue, I'd be like, okay. But I don't know much about Capcom, but it doesn't sound like that's the case. Yeah, it seems like a hell of a lot considering the NES and SNES Mini with, undisputed classics is less than 100, I think 70 quid-ish. So I was shocked to see it at £200. Absolutely shocked.
It is a lot. It comes out October 25th if you're interested. I like the fact that it's plug in and play. I like the way it looks because I think it's nuts and I get a kick out of nuts stuff. And I love the fact that there's 2 pads on there, right? I think that's just design. Yeah, I think that's really, and also because it's not control pads and it's arcade sticks with arcade buttons.
Yeah,
I think that ties into Capcom's legacy in many ways, given where they've come from. In case you're interested, I'll just read what it says here. Micro USB powered with HDMI output and onboard Wi-Fi to upload scores to worldwide leaderboard. So, I think we got all the games right just looking at their official website. It doesn't say anything about, whether you can add more games to it. I would imagine that you probably can't, right? Because
Well, I don't know whether they're planning on revealing more soon, is what I was saying. I don't know whether there's going to be... I don't know whether that's just 16 of the included ones or not. But, yeah.
Because it's essentially Capcom... I mean, poor use of words, but it's essentially Capcom Mini, except they haven't made it Mini, right? That's what they've done. They've seen the success of Nintendo.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I guess they've gone the other way. They've gone, well, no, we'll go for a premium. And I do think putting the sticks on there will be a huge appeal to some people. I just don't know whether people want to pay £200 for it.
Yeah, that's going to be the big sticking point.
Yeah, but interesting. I mean, look, man, retro consoles are here and they ain't going anywhere. People falling in love with them massively.
Yeah.
So, and talking about retro stuff as well, this devastated me. There was meant to be a Mortal Kombat trilogy remaster, and they canned it. Like, why? Why would they do this? I would be well up for that. Like, I assume it was 1, 2, and... Yeah, it was. The first 3 games being made by Blind Squirrel Games. Amazing. Apparently, they did the Bioshock collection and Borderlands Enhanced too. And it got killed. I thought that... What a great time. If that could have come out a month ago, 4 weeks before the MK11, which comes out in like 5-6 days, I don't understand why they did that. There was no reason either. They just said, oh, by the way, we were working on it, but we're not anymore.
I hate those news. It's like, this thing that you didn't know was coming. Yeah, it's not coming.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Why would you tell me this?
I know. Like, I don't know. I don't understand what could have happened. Because I don't think I'm going to go back to the original Mortal Kombat games and go, oh, they're brilliant. But I do think I could have had a nice nostalgia run. It probably could have, stolen £20 from me.
It would have been good, like a Street Fighter collection, just for 25 quid or something, if it's what it was going to ever be.
Yeah, just to have around. And it had something called Crypt Mode, which was designed to guide new players in by introducing a new way to play the original trilogy. And apparently it featured some kind of XP system. I was like, I would have done that. The best thing about the Mortal Kombat games, do you remember them for a while? They just decided to have, like, adventure modes where you'd walk around as Scorpion. Oh, they're awful. But they were brilliant and awful. And you'd talk to characters. It was just so weird. Such a strange addition for a fighting game. So, yeah.
I hate the fighting games do that. Just know what you are and stop doing your story modes that way. Just have a cutscene and then a fight. That's all it needs to be.
I know. I like how the Mortal Kombat games do it now, how they thread a story throughout their cutscenes, but all you are doing is fighting. It doesn't muck around with anything else. And I'm pretty sure that the Mortal Kombat games were the first ones to do that. Now I'll be inundated with people telling me that I'm wrong. That's fine. That's how I learn. But I tell you, man, MK11 comes out. We'll definitely talk about that next. Is it next week? By the time I think it's this week, it comes out. Next week it comes out. Well, we'll talk about it in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I absolutely. Oh, I just love those games, and I don't know why. Probably because they're so over the top, and the gore is so ridiculous. I can't help but enjoy them.
And as we've said before, it's whatever you grew up with, and like Tekken is the one for me. So it's just, yeah, I find it hard to muster up any enthusiasm about Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, no, exactly, because you didn't play them when you were a kid, right? Whereas for me, there was forbidden fruit as far as my parents were concerned. So it's like, well, I got to get involved in that. I meant to mention when we were talking about Star Wars 2, Telltale also let it slip by accident that there's a new Lego Star Wars game in development. Some people went crazy about this. I don't think it was a mistake. I think even Telltale realised, well, what did you expect?
Is it Telltale? It can't be Telltale.
Not Telltale. Sorry, Traveller's Tales. Sorry, that's my that's my brain. But no, I mean, like, to me, Lego games, and I'm sure if you're well into them, you won't agree, which is fine. But you play the first Lego game that you ever played, and you don't play them anymore after you realise they're all the same. You just pick kind of your favourite license, and you go play. And that's not me being disparaging towards them. I think they're very good, but you know, they don't hold your attention, I don't think, for a massive amount of time. Dare I say that? I think I do. I think I stand by this.
Yeah, I think they just are what they are, and if you like that, you like that. But it's not going to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah,
you know what you're going to get with that Star Wars game, whatever it is.
What was the last one?
Force Awakens. Isn't it?
Did they do a Force Awakens one?
Yeah, but it was just the Force Awakens.
Right, so they'll do probably all 3 in 1 or something.
All 3 in 1, or the last 2 maybe.
Yeah, it makes sense. People will play it. It makes perfect sense. And Hellblade's out on Switch.
Oh, yes.
Again, the reason I mention it is people are loving it, saying that it's brilliant, it suits the Switch perfectly, and I think the really cool thing, and this is why sometimes it's nice to release titles like that on consoles long after they've been out in the wild, is people are finding it for the first time. You know, it gets a bit of buzz, and people are like, oh, I didn't know what that was. So they jump on it and realize, oh, wow, I missed gold here. So, shout out to Hellblade, which is a very good game. Yeah.
Fun fact, I bought Skyrim for the Switch the other day.
Did you really? Have you played it yet?
No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it for a flight, because one of those games you can really like sink time into. It's not just like a sort of arcade title. It's one of those games I can really like get into for like hours if I fly to E3 or whatever.
So smart. How much was it, if you don't mind me asking? Because
it was half price. It was 25 quid. That's the only reason I bought it.
I was going to say, I remember way back when Nintendo first announced the Switch and all the games went up and you could go on GameUK.com, whatever the hell it was, and it said £50 for Skyrim. And I was like, you cannot be serious, £50.
And that's what it is now if it's not on sale. When that goes off sale, it'll be 50 quid again. And that's just outrageous, because it came out in 2011.
I know, and there's about 50 different versions already.
Yeah.
I mean, fair play. And also, especially because when it came out on, they always do this, Bethesda, when it came out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, it dropped half price like about 2 months afterwards over Christmas. They always do that to bump up their sales because they're smart business people. But to then bring it out on Switch and go 50 quid, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely nuts. There's also a report that next week, I wanted to, that the Xbox One S All Digital is going to be released. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It is basically, as it sounds, it looks exactly like the Xbox One S. It comes with a 1 terabyte hard drive. I think it comes with 3 games preloaded. It's going to cost around about 250 quid, but it's diskless. It is a... I guess you could... you download stuff, right? It's diskless. I mean, I'm sure within
all
that...
digital.
Yeah, with all digital. I'm sure that they would somehow probably make it work with streaming services when that becomes a bigger thing. But they are pushing it as basically diskless as opposed from... they're not framing it as play downloadable games. They're framing it as all digital, disc-free. And I would imagine this has got to be somewhat of a dip of a toe. Now, I'm convinced the Xbox 2, we'll call it, is going to do this wholehearted. I think it'll get rid of discs. At least one of them will. And Microsoft wanted to do it before. And this, to me, from a PR standpoint, is them dipping their toe in the water to go, how are people going to react to this at a very lesser level? Because nobody needs to give a shit about that. If you haven't got an Xbox One, do you really need to buy this? Probably not. But they can sort of gauge the kind of reaction that it may get. Hopefully, in my world, because I like, big companies grabbing this by the horns, in 6 months, whenever E3, or less than that, 2 months when E3 is saying, hey man, we're going to try this for real. I would be all right with it. There's no point, it's like, are you going to try and fit a CD drive in an iPod? No. So I understand it's different with games because the download size is bigger. That is something you need to get around. But someone's got to try and make it happen. So this may as well be the generation we do it, in my opinion. I could be absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
So we will see. Sam, you've been playing, you've gone back to Dragon Age.
Dragon Age Inquisition. Well, I mean, I'm still on Dragon Age Inquisition.
Well, I thought we'd talk about that. Because obviously we talked about it before, but there was some murmurings about BioWare quite a while ago now. But I thought we'd mention it. I mean, are you still loving it? I'm going to guess so. Otherwise, you wouldn't be playing it anymore.
Yes, I'm at like 78 hours now.
Wow, man, that is crazy.
Yeah, so I'm like doing everything I can, apart from the stuff that's like really unclear. Like there's some maps. It's like find this vaguely sketched area in this huge map, and I'm like, nah. But other than that, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. As we were going on to say in a second, there was that Kotaku article on Dragon Age 4, and I read that, and there's a very minor but very key spoiler in there. So one bit of Dragon Age Inquisition has been spoiled. I'm not too bothered, but you know, it's never amazing. But that's the risk. It's one of those. It's like total tangent here, but one of those debates about how long you can leave something before mentioning key details, like The Sixth Sense or Bioshock, for example. Like, can you ever mention the real key parts of those? But yeah, that was a bit of a shame. But yeah, Inquisition, amazing. Really enjoyed it. I have no idea how far I am away from the end, but we'll see about that.
Well, I mean, the fact you're into it that much, I think, kind of sums up that I doubt you're going to be upset about it now. Like, no. I don't think there's anything you can do now to make you go, ugh, this game is terrible.
Yeah.
But all the stuff, basically, I think it was a Kotaku article, right? That,
yeah.
Or the Bioware. I mean, I've had a quick look as we were sort of doing the podcast, and you know more than I. But yeah, I mean, it basically just sounds like, well, the real interesting thing with it is Anthem, and obviously it ties into the Dragon Age stuff as well. But Anthem, again, I already scanned it. Certainly sounds like it was a game. Not a game by numbers, that doesn't seem fair, but a game that EA felt like they had to have part of their portfolio, and yet, you know, BioWare were under huge restrictions, meaning they couldn't actually be as creative with it as arguably they wanted to. It sounds like a bit like a relationship where one person has all the power, and yet it's the other person that's trying to make it, and they don't really know what exactly they are allowed or not allowed to do.
Yeah, it was a really interesting article, that whole Anthem one. There's way too much to talk about here. But one of the key points is that Dragon Age 4 was originally codenamed Joplin until 2017 when it was binned, because they needed people to come on board with Anthem to help what was a troubled development. Then it was rebooted under the name of Morrison. So firstly, with Joplin, you'd be playing as a Tevinter spy. But with Morrison, it's now been rebooted. It's more of a live service game. Which is very vague, and we don't know any details about that. But you know, as soon as you mention that phrase, everyone's like, "No!" But it's just one of those things. Like after Anthem and Andromeda, I know people are going to be pessimistic, and I know people are going to be cynical, and I know they're going to be skeptical. But just BioWare care about the Dragon Age franchise, and it's not going to. Don't catastrophize it just yet. Like, I'll be cautiously optimistic because it had multiplayer in Dragon Age, and if you'd heard that in Dragon Age Inquisition's development, you would have been worried about that. But Dragon Age Inquisition's multiplayer doesn't affect the experience at all, and it's an optional thing. So it depends how they implement these live service elements, and it might be fine. So, you know, just they know exactly how much backlash they'll get by doing it wrong. So, yeah, I'm just cautiously optimistic about the game right now.
Well, I mean, the thing with Anthem is it was brand new, right? You know what I mean? There was nothing to base it on. Whereas Dragon Age, you can't be as... I think you've got to realise that there is a huge embedded fan base that is expecting a lot from that. And if you allow it to kind of run into the same problems they did with, well, I guess they did with Mass Effect, right? So maybe that ties into it more, though. You can't do what you did to Mass Effect with that, especially after Anthem's come out and raised a lot of people's eyebrows already. It begs the question about what, I mean, I don't know, obviously, but it does beg the question about what the hell is going on at EA and BioWare. I mean, is it something that's going to get closed down eventually? I don't know.
I don't think it'll get closed down unless it... I think Dragon Age 4 will be another test. Everyone's saying it'll be dead if Anthem flops, but I just don't think that's the case. I think Dragon Age 4 is still going to have a lot of money pumped into it and everything, and yeah, it's just... I think a lot of gamers think they know more about the business side of development than they do. And I don't think a lot of us do, and I'm not going to claim to, but, you know, they're not going to... I don't think they just close BioWare of all people. So yeah, we'll see about that. It'll be interesting to just see how the next few years go for EA and BioWare, considering their shifting focus. You know, single player, Jedi Fallen Order, and everything. Yeah, no, and I think the other thing is as well, given that they do have a bad reputation at the moment, deserved or not, if they close BioWare, that will, you know, that could be it could be a death knell in many ways. That could just send the people over the edge. Yeah, BioWare's like a beloved childhood hero for a lot of people, and a real killer if they if they killed BioWare. That would be a real unforgivable move, I think.
Yeah, I agree. But it's fascinating. I don't think you'll surprise anybody if you didn't know that there was some issues with that was called Anthem, because again, when people played it, there was a lot of confused people being like, I don't really know what this is. I liked it for the sort of 6-7 hours I played, but maybe I didn't play enough. It's a lot bigger game than that. So we will see. I love BioWare. The last few years, they have kind of ventured off course from what I liked. Like I said, I wanted far more story-driven stuff, and I didn't even think Dragon Age Inquisition was as much as I wanted. But we'll see. We'll see what they do with the next, all of it.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. I think it's going to be a while. So as always, when the news is, it's not thin on the ground. Obviously, the PlayStation 5 stuff came out, but there's no massive games being released. In fact, I have or did I close it down? I do. I mean, the game releases at the moment are...
Days Gone is coming next week.
Days Gone is coming next week, and it has TV adverts, people. So they're putting the money behind it. World War Z is meant to be out next week as well, which I
think World War Z is out today.
Yeah, which I want to try and play because it looks awful. And therefore, straight away, I want to play it. Mortal Kombat 11 also comes out next week. And that's pretty much it. There's some other stuff coming out, such as Cuphead on Switch, which is actually quite cool if you like Cuphead. But
Did you see the Diesel, the company, not the fuel? They have partnered with Days Gone.
Have they?
Yeah.
Why?
They've got a clothing line for Days Gone, inspired by bikers.
I'm looking it up. Diesel Days Gone. Well, that's just bizarre. Oh yeah, there it is. Diesel. Of all people, Diesel clothes quite expensive. I don't know. I'm not a fashion guy, so I don't know.
Well, they're ripped sleeveless jackets. They're Sons of Anarchy, the clothing collection, basically. But it looks all right, I guess.
And you can wear it in the game as well. Well, there you go. Great. That's just all right. That's the world we live in. All right, good for Diesel. And then, I mean, there's not really anything next month either in May. Or Rage 2 comes out, which is all right, I suppose. And there's a load of Resident Evil games on Switch. I guess it depends what you want. I mean, but to me, you got Super Mario Maker 2 in June. No, nothing in July. I guess Wolfenstein Youngblood. But these aren't games. This is what I'm talking about. August Shenmue 3, Borderlands 3 in September. There's nothing there that really gets me pumped. That's all I'm saying.
You've got Control in August as well.
Do I know what that is? What's that?
Control is a new Remedy game.
Oh, yes, of course that's what it is. That'll be interesting. Remedy are not, they're lots of things, but they're not boring. So, anyway, my point being is, as there's not, I asked for some questions. We will answer them just for the next 10 or so minutes to finish the podcast. PP Portina, I hope I got that right. Have you played Dead by Daylight? Is Dead by Daylight the serial killer game, or is that the other one?
Yeah, it's the 4 survivors, 1 killer.
I love that game. That game is so good. It's one of those under the radar gems. It's far better than the one that had the official license, which was Jason.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was better.
No, I liked it, but that had technical problems. Like Dead by Daylight, I could actually play a game, but the other one I couldn't ever get a game because the network. And it's probably fixed now, but it drove me nuts. But no, those games are awesome, where you basically have 4 people that are surviving, and one person's a serial killer or crazy horror man, and you've got to go and kill them. Oh man, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Like they're excellent. They're really good games.
Yeah, I wish Dead by Daylight had a bit more polish. It just feels a bit early access, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. No, that's true. That's totally true.
Sounds harsh, but it's just like it doesn't have that polish. And Friday the 13th does, and I haven't had the technical issues at launch. I played it afterwards when it was fixed and everything. And that just feels like you're living in Friday the 13th, and that was a real good game. But yeah, Dead by Daylight is good as a concept. I just wish they sort of just buffed it out a little bit more. And that's one of those games, if that continues to hold popularity, for another few years, that'll be really good to come into with all the stuff that they add into it and like, improve on it and stuff.
Yeah, no, there's a genre in that. And I hope more people jump on it. Terrell Q. Rogers has about 700 games. We'll do quickfire. What was the best, Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis? I go Super Nintendo.
Is the Genesis the Mega Drive?
Yeah.
I never had a Super. I never had either of them, but I think Sonic and the Mega Drive. So.
My answer is Sonic. That's the best.
It's Sonic and the Mega Drive, yeah.
What is the greatest video game system of all time? I'd also give that to the SNES, Super Nintendo. That is mine. They both tie in.
PS1.
Of course, we've done that. We do this one all the time, but we'll answer greatest video game of all time. Ocarina of Time for me.
BioShock.
Yeah, your thoughts on the PlayStation 5? Well, we've kind of done that. Your thoughts on a possible N64 Classic? Well, I thought about this. The problem with an N64 Classic is what do you do with the controls? Because it has that horrible stick thing. I mean, I'm sure there's a way around it, but you would not be able to use the C buttons and a stick in 2019 without retraining your brain. It would be awful.
I would offer people 2 pre-order variants. You can get the one normal one or one in the same style, like crystal casing and stuff, but they move the thumbstick up a little bit so you could access it with your left thumb. That would be my idea.
Well, couldn't you have one that has 2 sticks so I don't have to use the C buttons? I can't use the C buttons.
I can't remember what it looks like now.
It looks like a boomerang gone wrong. It's an awful...
A guy with 3 arms.
Yeah, it's an awful console, it really is, but also brilliant. And thoughts on the upcoming Sega Genesis Classic? I like all the mini classics. I think they're great. I think they have proven that there's a huge market there, and they're fun, and they're cute, and they're novel.
Yeah, I love them as long as they're not £200.
Yeah. I'm actually intrigued by this next question, Sam, because I don't know what you think about it. I'm sure I do, and I've forgotten. Ryan Conway, what are your thoughts on the BioShock trilogy? For me, they're my favourite games to go back to. 2 was Met, but 1 and Infinite are classics. Now, I know you loved the first one. I really like the second one, and I like Infinite. But we must have talked about it, I don't remember. Basically, my question to you, Sam, what do you think of 2 and 3? That's what I'm most interested in.
Well, actually, I replayed, or tried to replay them, but I had a load of technical issues with the remastered collection on PS4, actually, so I didn't manage to complete it again, which was a shame. But 2 is just more of 1, so it's like, it's good, but it really just treads the same ground. I feel like it was just like, it wallowed in Rapture rather than sort of using it as a spring to do it, other stuff, which is fine, but it just doesn't hit the heights of 1. Infinite, just the trouble with Infinite is it just suffers for being so wanky and up its own arse. Like it's really good, but it thinks it's so much cleverer than it is, which is just a huge problem. It gets tangled in its own, at the end with the whole timelines and stuff, and I just think it's just a bit toss. Only a little bit toss though. Not loads of toss.
I think I do think it thinks it's cleverer than it is.
Yeah.
But that's the one I'm looking for. No, I don't know what I'm saying. It is up its own arse, you're right. I don't know what I'm talking about. I agree.
It's very good though, I should say that. I don't dislike it.
No, I loved it. I loved it. Like, I thought it was an awesome game, but you're right. It tries to be smarter than it is. Yeah,
and the world creation, which is great. Like, what's it? Columbia? Am I right in saying it's called Columbia?
Yeah.
That was a great world to explore. Really good.
Daniel Sylvester, have you played the Witcher series? I asked because I don't need that bit. I don't play the Witcher. I don't get it. I played the Witcher 2, was too much. I tried the Witcher 3 because people told me it was more accessible. Don't agree. I usually love those games, but they're just, for one reason or not, they're just not my thing at all.
Yeah, I got the Witcher 3 and then played through the Witcher 1, which hasn't aged well, and the Witcher 2 to prepare myself for the Witcher 3, and have never played the Witcher 3.
Yeah, I know, it just doesn't appeal. I don't know why.
It's just intimidating. Like every time I look at Starty, I'm just like, oh, that's a big game.
Yeah, no, totally agree, man. It's just, I don't know what it is. There's something about the way they make open world fantasy games that doesn't work for me, and I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is. Ash, do you play League of Legends? No, I don't. Do you, Sam? I don't think you do, but you may do.
No, MOBAs just nah, not.
That ties into kind of the Witcher thing for me. Don't understand MOBAs. Love it if I did, because so many people get excited about them, but I don't. Go right over my head.
Yeah.
Definitely amazing. What's your favourite Nintendo franchise? I mean, probably if I go game for game and overall enjoyment, it would be Mario Kart, I think. I mean, Zelda it means the world to me, but again, in terms of consistency, it's got to be Mario Kart, I would guess.
I'll say Mario, just because it's got 64, and I really enjoyed Galaxy and Odyssey and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's good. Finch, is there any game better than Chrono Trigger? I wouldn't know, because can you believe it? I've never played Chrono Trigger. What an awful human being I am.
I've never played it either.
No, it's supposed to be brilliant, though. Brett Rowley, what's your favourite series of all time? Well, Mario Kart.
Series?
Yes, I get Mario Kart, Zelda, Gears of War. I mean, this is not one, but I can't pick one. I'm probably forget. Elder Scrolls probably would get in there, given how many of them I played and loved. There you go, God of War 2. There's a bunch for you. That kind of sums up my love of games in different genres.
Yeah, I think the Fallout series would pip it for me, just because of how much time they've taken from my life.
Captain Raven, what's your favourite DOS game? And do you sometimes enjoy playing such old games nowadays? Do the point and clicks count as DOS games? I think I remember...
I don't know what DOS means.
Oh, don't even do that to me, Sam.
I mean, I know, I've seen it written down. I couldn't tell you what is not a DOS game.
Oh, man, I think it stands for Desk Operating System, right? I think that's right. Probably not at all. I'm pretty sure the Monkey Island games you had to load from DOS. And if that's the case, it'd be the Monkey Island games, because the Monkey Island games are brilliant. I would like to see them come back even today, but we will have to. I mean, it's unlikely to say the least. It's unlikely.
This is a random question, but have you heard of a point-and-click series called Pajama Sam?
No, I haven't, but I love it already.
Yeah, that was what I played with. Surprisingly, it's aimed at kids. That was one I played when I was very young, and that was great. They were point-and-click games.
Oh man, point-and-click are just excellent. So cool. I'm going to ask this one just because I go on my little rant. Andrew Lindsay, PlayStation or Xbox? I don't care. And what I mean by that is I'm happy that we live in a world where that kind of fanboyism has died down a little bit, because I just think
only a little bit.
Well, only a little bit. But I just don't think it matters. I really don't think it. Who cares? Like, the Xbox has pros and cons. The PlayStation has pros and cons. The Nintendo Switch doesn't even compare to those two because it stands outside of their walls. It's just, I don't care about that stuff. I really, really don't. Play whatever you want. They're all the same, especially the PlayStation and Xbox. They're all the same mostly in terms of what's under the hood. It doesn't. It's not a big deal to me, is what I'm basically trying to say.
Yeah, I don't care either. It's not a big deal. Play what you want. If you enjoy it, love it.
Yeah, cool. Exactly. It's just, I don't care. Even back in the day, it was Nintendo versus Sega. I was like, I don't care. And following on from that, Braylon's dad, Call of Duty or Halo? Actually, that's a different question. Bizarrely, my choice would actually be Call of Duty. I think Call of Duty's more, it's like an adrenaline shot, whereas Halo's more of a long game. And I get tired of Halo games after a while. I much prefer the adrenaline nature and, oh my gosh, here we go, Call of Duty, and then don't want to play it in a couple of hours. As opposed to Halo, which I can get into after a while, but eventually I'm like, meh. I'm a bit tired now.
Yeah, I'm surprised that people compare Call of Duty to Halo. Like, it used to be better back in the day, but they're not the titans they once were in terms of what I mean is Halo isn't the titans it now is, and it's just they're not comparable. Like, Call of Duty releases once every year. Halo is more meaningful stories that you can play co-op. It's not the same sort of multiplayer appeal, even without the thematic differences. The way they play, they're just not like one Call of Duty players are going to like Halo and vice versa. They're not the same sort of multiplayer space. Battlefield's a bit closer, but I don't think anything's sort of on Call of Duty level with those quick, easily consumable matches and the sort of quintessential multiplayer experience with all those game modes and everything. So yeah, I think obviously it's got to be Call of Duty if you're going to pick between any of them. But Halo has more meaningful. Like I love the campaigns and stuff rather than liking the multiplayer in Call of Duty. So yeah.
No, that's the perfect answer. I couldn't agree more. Tormund Giants Bay.
That's great.
Why has nobody made a proper Mega Man game in a million years? I thought they had. I thought the last Mega Man game everybody loved.
Mega Man 11 from last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, everyone loved that. I think you need to use Google, Tormund.
There you go, checkmate, lawyered.
What game has your favourite combat? Oh, the Arkham series. By a country mile. Like that. Tapping Y to do the dodges at the last second is constantly satisfying. I love it. There's nothing that comes close. I mean, that's not true. Gears of War would be close behind, but yeah, Batman makes you feel like Batman, and I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I'd probably have to go the same with that. I can tell you what it's not, and it's Morrowind, because Morrowind's combat sucks the big one.
It does. It's awful. It's so bad. Super duper favorite Soulsborne game. I will answer this. I've played them all now. I'm Bloodborne. But I would put favourite in inverted commas. I don't have a favourite. I hate them all. But I think the best one...
Least hated.
Yeah, least hated would be Bloodborne. I can't stand the rest. Bloodborne I thought was... Well, I could stand it a little bit more, is the way I'd put it. But yeah, that's not my genre at all.
I'd go for the first Dark Souls. I think that's the tightest design of all of them. And it's just, I think, the most convincing world and story. I love it.
That first one was... Oh, man. Just kills me. Just Aaron, how great is Resident Evil 4? Yeah, it's
so good.
It is good, yeah. The problem with Resident Evil 4 is unless you came to it at exactly the right time, so many other games aped it that you don't understand how important it was. And I think I was that person. It took me doing some research for oh, right, I get it now. So that is the issue with it, is that it changed everything. And you don't realise unless you played it straight away.
Yeah. It was great though. It's so good, so good.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Do you think video games should be considered a sport? Says Ivan Dahajan. I think I do, because I had this debate the other day about golf, and my big point was I think if there's anything that you're competitive in and you've had to put time into it and learn a skill, and that some people can be naturally talented at, I do believe it should be considered a sport. It doesn't mean I think it should be in the Olympics, but in terms of do I see it as a sport, I would say yes, I probably do, for better or worse.
Yeah, I mean, I was esports editor for 2 years, so I'm going to go with yeah.
You say yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. What is your favourite Final Fantasy and why? Says Brandon Ingham. My answer is none of them. I hate them all. I think they suck.
I've not played any of them, so
there you go. See, that means they all suck. What are your thoughts on the later releases of the Dead Rising series, such as 3 and 4? Says Adam. I think I played 4. No, I didn't. I don't think. Do you know what? I don't think I played any Dead Rising after the first one. I maybe did, and I've forgotten. I can't answer that question. The Dead Rising thing feels naught to me. It's just it's a forgotten era. I don't even know. I have no idea.
I just hated the timer on it. I thought, oh, this is really fun mowing down zombies mindlessly. Oh, wait, I've got a timer to get medication to my kid or some shit like that. And it's just like, nah, I couldn't be bothered with it.
Oh, dear. Lee Chivington, which video game villain scares you the most? Oh, I guess the guy in Pete. Did Petey have a villain?
Yeah, it's the floating woman in the fridge or whatever it is.
I guess so. I don't know. I don't. Well, it's not gonna be like Bowser, is it?
No, because he's not known for being a villain. You know what I mean? He's not a charismatic villain. He's a good character, but he's not a good. And he didn't scare you. Oh,
no, I don't know. Rafina.01234. I'm not going to read all that. There's a lot of things. Biggest gaming disappointment. That's always hard, isn't it? Because there must be something I played and went. I mean, this is really unfair. In some ways, Red Dead Redemption 2, but it wasn't a disappointment in terms of what it did. It was a disappointment in terms of I like the first Red Dead, which was really sort of pitched to my tastes, not intentionally, obviously. This one wasn't, because it focused more on survival and downtime. And I don't really like that in games, but that's not because the game was disappointing. It's because it was disappointing to me, and therefore I think it's a little bit unfair.
Yeah, I think mine's got to be Last of Us, because like the person who gave it to me, he bigged it up so much that when I got to it, I was like, well, it's actually fallen a little bit flat. And you've played yourself here, because now I feel less good about it. If I hadn't gone in,
yourself.
Yeah, because if I'd have gone in knowing nothing, I probably would have enjoyed The Last of Us a lot more. But I went in like, yes, this is going to change my life. And now I'm like, yeah, it's all right.
No, I think it's a dude, man. That's the real thing, isn't it? You get overhyped and you watch something, you're like, it's all right, I guess. It's fine.
That's why you got to undersell something. When you're like, yeah, you should watch Jurassic Park. It's pretty good. Yeah, you should watch Jurassic Park. And then they watch it like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. You can't overdo these things. Darth Mousemat, amazing. Are there any games you've played that make you sit back and think to yourself, damn, this is art? I mean, Shadow of the Colossus probably. Ico to a lesser extent, but yeah, I mean, Shadow of the Colossus is amazing because you could only do it in video games, and that's why I think it's brilliant. If it was a movie, it'd be the dullest movie ever. But because you're interacting with it and you have all the ambience and the silence and the environment, it's just brilliant, and it's an incredible experience.
I went on about a game last year, I don't know if you remember, called Forgotten Anne.
I remember.
It's just a sort of, it looks Ghibli inspired. It's a wonderful little platform, and that's one of them. And also BioShock as well, just because they sort of seized ownership of the Art Deco design in games. Like if you look at any Art Deco design in games now, everyone always says BioShock, and that just shows how well they nailed that in that game.
Yep. One for you, Sam. Ryan McMetalface. What game would you personally say defines the PlayStation 1?
As much as I love Spyro, I think Crash sort of defines it, because it sort of straddled the line between the 2D platform principles of only travelling in one direction and collecting all the boxes and things like that, and just sort of mixed it with the early 3D emerging genre. And it did it pretty well, to be fair. Like, obviously, running towards a screen wasn't ideal, but everyone still loved it. It wasn't a mess like Bubsy.
I couldn't even. I mean, Medal of Honor for me, because it's the only game I played on PlayStation 1 at the time. And I was like, this is shit. Because it was just like, it had a crazy. It was before 2 sticks and stuff. Ryan Ferguson, what's your favourite Fallout? 3.
Same.
Yeah, just because it came at the right time and I played it for so long that I don't care about the Fallout games because they all feel the same after you've played one. So. Doctor Who 90250, have you tried Warframe? I haven't, but a lot of people tell me to, because Warframe is secretly massive and I had no idea.
Yeah, it's always simmering under the surface.
Yeah.
You never hear loads about it, but it occasionally pops up, like with Anthem. And I was like, well, this is just the worst Warframe. And then a lot of people were like, oh, I guess I'll play Warframe then.
No, yeah.
But it's, I played a little bit of it, but it was one of those things where it's not a game where if you play yourself, you don't get the exact same progress as your mate does. And me and my mate got to a certain point where I needed to replay everything in my game to get to where he was. And I was like, right, I'm not playing this anymore.
There you go. D. Soms, what in your opinion is the best PlayStation 2 game? Oh, now I got to remember PlayStation 2 games. I mean, God of War comes to mind, but I'm sure there's something else I'm not remembering. So as I'm not, I'll say Shadow of the Colossus and God of War. That's what I'll go with.
I'm going to say Ratchet and Clank and Sly Raccoon.
There you go. Done. Smashed it. We've answered a lot of these already just by having normal chats on the podcast. The Man XX, FIFA or PES. We did that one. Back in the day, PES, but now FIFA. Absolutely, FIFA's just a much better game.
Yep.
Favorite Mass Effect game will do by Jace Davenport. I mean, my Mass Effect's 2 because I'm boring, but it is the best one as far as I'm concerned. It takes everything that's good about Mass Effect and makes it more action-packed.
What was the question, sir?
Favorite Mass Effect?
Not. I've only played one. So the first one.
I forget about that. What is your favorite RPG? Says Jamie. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Favorite RPG? I don't know. There's too many. KOTOR, Elder Scrolls 4, Zelda's an RPG. Loads. Most RPGs, I love them.
Dragon Age Inquisition.
And we will do one more. I'm just scanning through to try and find one. This is good. Graham Skinner. How good was Manhunt? I never played Manhunt, but I think Manhunt actually, it may have had a bunch of really cool ideas in it, but everything else around it was so crazy and so, dare I say it, rockstar, that it got overlooked. Like, I'm pretty sure if you wore a headset in Manhunt and you made too loud a noise, it knew that it was you. Like, it could hear you through the headset or something like that. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, I heard it was quite good, but it's sort of known more for its notoriety than its inherent goodness. That's not a good phrase, but you know what I mean.
No, I mean, I think you're right. But I think it was brilliant. I never played it because controversy came first for me, and I never got around to anything else.
Yeah, and I was about 8 at the time, so I definitely was not going to be playing it.
Can you imagine you played at the end? Just death. Just death all around. And on that note, we will we'll draw a line to a close. Thanks for all the questions. There were loads this week as well. We could have gone on for about another half an hour, but that would have been nuts, let's face it. We go for an hour. That's just what we do here on The Week in Gaming and what we do on Simon's Pro Wrestling Show. An hour. It's good. I've seen the analytics. I know how long people listen to. Sometimes people go, oh, you should do a longer podcast. I'm like, I've seen it, man. You can't. Anyway, I'm going off track. Please do come follow both Sam and myself on Twitter. You can do that at Sam Bishop with 3 P's and a 1. I'm at SimonMiller316. And also that's the same on Instagram. YouTube.com/The Miller Report Rules is where you can get my other YouTube content, including this podcast, which does go up at the weekend. Subscribe if you haven't already. And it's all supported by Patreon.com/SimonMiller316. Sam, do you have any cool video game plans in the next week? Anything going down?
Apart from trying to complete Dragon Age Inquisition, because I've mopped up all the side bits and now I've only got the critical part. So hopefully I'll be finished soon, but I don't know how far I am away from the end. So
I mean, that's amazing, man. That is amazing. That is some serious video game time. And again, what better? People talk about reviews and stuff. What better review than that, right? I mean, that is high praise indeed. That you've played. Was it 78 hours? Did you say?
Yeah, and I don't know how far I am away from the end.
It's amazing. It must be so hard now as well, surely.
Yeah, well, no, I got on easy, and I'm very overpowered from mopping up all the other stuff. So
you're a smart man. I go and kick my ass. It kicked my ass hard. We do drop once a week, so make sure you subscribe, and then you know when we're coming at you. And yeah, just keep enjoying video games. Let us know what you're playing. Let us know what you're excited about. Maybe I missed a game, and maybe there's something in 2019 that I should start preparing myself for. All about that positivity and love. Obviously, PlayStation 5 on the way as well. But thank you very much for listening, and we will talk to you again very soon.